Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me to introduce myself. My name is Novia Putri Ramadani. I am from Economic Education 2017 and I will present my research proposal entitled The Influence of Digital Literations, Media Learning, Online Learning on Students' Learning Outcomes, Faculty of Economics, University of Jakarta, Semester 113. Case study on Economic Education Students Class 2018 until 2020. I would like to express my gratitude to my supervisor who has guided me in compiling this research proposal, and to the Honorable Mr. and Miss the exempling lecture. The first, I will explain the background of my research problem, namely its background. The first is the COVID-19 pandemic has replaced teaching and learning activities, which are normally face-to-face with online learning. And the second, however, due to the less supportive atmosphere and place of learning, students often find it difficult to understand learning and lack of effective in learning. And the third, students consider that online learning is sometimes less effective due to obstacles that occur in the learning process. Students are not yet fully enthusiastic about participating in online learning because of the lack of their respective digital literacy levels barriers to learning media and effectiveness in online learning. And then I want to explain formulations problems. The first formulation problems is how does literacy affects the learning outcomes of FEUNG students in semester 113, and the second is how is the influence of learning media on the learning outcomes of FEUNG students in semester 113, and the third is how does online learning affect the learning outcomes of FEUNG students in semester 113, and the last is there an effect of digital literacy, learning media, and online learning on the learning outcomes of the 113 semester FEUNG students. And then I want to explain the purpose of this research. The first, the purpose of this research to test the direct effect of digital literacy on student learning outcomes of FEUNG in semester 113, and then to test the direct effect of learning media on student learning outcomes of FEUNG in semester 113 and to test the direct effect of online learning on student learning outcomes of FEUNG in semester 113, and the last is to test the direct effect of digital literacy, learning media, and online learning on student learning outcomes of FEUNG in semester 113. And the benefit of research is in theoretically results of this research are expected to be of benefit to the scientific realm in particular. Besides that, it can also contribute useful and critical talks as study material for academic people in building a conducive learning environment and building learning independence to improve learning outcomes. And on a beneficial basis is one provide input to further improve digital knowledge, learning media, and the effectiveness of online learning in order to achieve good learning goals and results. And the second is provides information about students' learning outcomes during online learning. And then chapter 2 is literature study. The first literature study is learning outcomes. Learning outcomes is variable dependent in my research. Learning outcomes are a better level of mental development than pre-learning, while the levels of mental development are linked to learning materials and manifest in the cognitive, affective, and psychomotoric domains. The theory put forward by Dimiati and Mugiono. And then learning outcomes are change in behavior in the aspects of knowledge, attitudes, and abilities to act. The theory put forward by Sujana. And the second literature study is digital literacy. Digital literacy is variable independent. Digital literacy can be interpreted as the ability of each individual to apply functional skills to digital device so that he can find and select information, think critically, create creativity, collaborate with others, communicate effectively, and remain ignorant of electronic security and the developing social cultural context. The theory put forward by Hegussi and Python S 2010. And digital literacy reps hope that it can become a point of ability in understanding and using information from various formats. And the theory put forward by Gilster in 1997. And the next literature study is learning media. Media, when it is understood in broad terms, means humans, materials, or events that build conditions that enable students to acquire knowledge, skills, or attitude development. The theory put forward by Gerlach, Vernon, and M.Ec in 1019 and 80. And as anything that can be used to transmit message or listen content, stimulate students' thought, feelings, attention, and abilities so as to encourage the teaching and learning process. The theory put forward by Ibrahim and Sukma Dinatanana in 2003. And the last literature study is online learning. Online learning is one form of learning model that is facilitated and has support from the use of information and communication technology. The theory put forward by Numik Solstio in 2013. And learning has several characteristics, namely interactivity, independence, accessibility, and enrichment. Another definition of online learning is a form of information technology applied to education in the form of cyberspace. The theory put forward by Rusman in 2012. The next is relevant research result. The first is result in the influence of literacy on student learning outcomes in economic subjects by Rianda et al. In 2014. Based on the research result, it was obtained that the R value was 0.600, which was classified as strong because there was a positive and significant relationship between the independent variable X, namely student literacy, and the dependent variable, namely student achievement, that it can be concluded that there is an effect of contribution to the economic learning achievement of students of class IPS at MAN 1 Pontianak. And the second research result is the effect of e-learning media on mathematics learning outcomes of class for students of SDN 20 Banda Aceh by Rahmatia et al. In 2017. The result of this study are because the T-count table is 4.82.042, so that hypothesis 0 is reject or hypothesis 1 is accept. It can be concluded that there is an effect of e-learning media on students' mathematical learning outcomes on fraction material in grade 4 SDN 20 Banda Aceh. And the third relevant research result is to study of the effect of online learning on mathematics learning outcomes of class 4 by Nugraha et al. In 2020. The result of this study can be concluded that there is an effect of the use of online learning media on the mathematics learning outcomes of fourth grade students. the average post-test score shows that the experimental class is higher than the control class, namely 80.83 for the experimental class and 64.14 for the control class. And the last relevant research result is the effect of online learning on student learning interests during the COVID-19 period by Unitasari and Hanifa in 2020. The results showed that online learning during the COVID-19 pandemic greatly influenced students' interest in learning. Students felt bored because they did not meet their friends and teachers directly. And then theoretical framework. The factor in influence learning outcomes are stated by Annie in 2004 in 13 page that a set of factors that contribute to learning is the internal and external conditions of learning. Internal conditions include physical conditions such as health of body, organs, psychological conditions such as intellectual, emotional, and social conditions such as the ability to socialize with the environment. The theory put forward by Gilser in 1997 states that digital literacy is the ability to use technology and information from digital devices effectively and efficiently in various contexts such as academics, careers, and everyday life. And the theories put forward by Asnawir and Bashiruddin Usman in 2002, the media as objects that can be manipulated, heard, read, and seen or discussed, along with instruments that are used properly in teaching and learning activities, can affect the effectiveness of instructional programs. And the theory put forward by Mary Dennis Brown in 2000 and Dave Versi in 2001 states that only learning is a learning activities that use network include internet, LAN, and WAN as an way of delivering, interacting, and providing and support by various forms of learning service. And the next is theoretical framework, and this study that's the correlation of the independent variable 1 is namely digital literacy, and independent variable 2 learning media, and independent variable 3 online learning on the dependent variable namely learning outcomes. The factors that influence and can support the success of the teaching and learning process are the level of literacy, learning media, and the effectiveness of learning. This applies to students of the Faculty of Economics State University of Jakarta, more specifically the Economic Education Study program. The problem currently experienced by students in this online learning condition is the lack of effectiveness in learning. There are many ways that both lecturers and students can do to improve students' learning abilities. One of them is by developing understanding of digital literacy and applying computer-based learning to learning. Online learning in this condition provides freedom for students to be fully involved in the process of teaching and learning activities, not just listening, seeing, and taking notes, but students are active in all learning activities. Next is research hypothesis. The first, it is suspect that there is a positive and significant influence between digital literacy on student learning outcomes of the Faculty of Economics State University of Jakarta, especially the Economic Education Study program for the 2018 and until 2020 semester in the 113th semester. The second is it is suspect that there is a positive and significant influence between learning media on student learning outcomes of the Faculty of Economics State University of Jakarta, especially of the Economic Education Study program for 2018 until 2020 semester 113. And the third is it is suspect that there is a positive and significant influence between online learning on student learning outcomes of the Faculty of Economics, State University of Jakarta, especially the Economics Education program, study program for the 2018 until 2020 semester in semester 113. And the last is, it is suspected that there is a positive and significant influence between digital literacy learning media, online learning on student learning outcomes at the Faculty of Economics, State University of Jakarta, especially the Economic Education Study Program for 2018 until 2020 semester 113. And chapter 3 in research methodology, method of research, place and period in campus State University of Jakarta, Rawamangun Muka, RT11 or RW 14, Rawamangun, Pulau Gadung, it's Jakarta, DKI Jakarta, 1 in code pods in 1322 and 0. This research due in January 2021 until completion. Data and data source. Primary data obtained from distributing independent variable questionnaires, and secondary data were obtained from documentation of student learning outcomes belonging to the Faculty of Economics, State University of Jakarta in academic division. And research method is this study use quantitative research method with a correlational approach using multiple linear regressions analysis models, and subject and object. This research is the subject in this study were students of economic education class 2018 until 2020 in semester 113. The object of this research is the learning outcomes of students of the Faculty of Economics, State University of Jakarta in semester 113. The population and sample in methods of research. The population in the study was 389 economic education student class 2018 until 2020. And the sampling technique used simple random sampling, determination of the sample using the Slovene formula. The sample that the researcher will use is 197 students who are randomly select from the total population of economics education students in class 2018 until 2020. And then data collection technique. The data in the study were obtained by a survey method using a questionnaire or a class questionnaire to collect data on independent variables. The data collection for the dependent variables use the data documentation technique for the assessment scores for the 113 semester students of economic education class 2018 until 2020. Measurement data for variable X by scoring using a Likert scale. And the next is data collection technique in instrument tests. The first is digital literacy. The conceptual definition digital literacy is the ability to use digital-based technology and information effectively and efficiently in its use in academic, career, and daily life context. And the operational definition digital literacy is the ability, interests, and attitudes of individuals to use digital-based technology and communication tools to access, manage, analyze, create new knowledge, and communicate with others. And this is the instrument indicator. And then instrument tests in learning media. The conceptual definition learning media is a component of learning research of physical facilities which contain instructional material in a student environment that can stimulate students to learn. And the operational definitions learning media are anything that can be used to transmit message or lesson content, stimulate students' thought, feelings, attention, and abilities so as to encourage the teaching and learning process. And this is the instrument indicator of learning media. And next is instrumentals of online learning. The conceptual definitions: online learning is a learning activity by using internet network features as a learning method in the form of interactions, discussions, and other activities, and is supported by several online learning tools to support learning objectives. And the operational definition: online learning is a learning activity in the form of online interactions between students and material or subjects matter so that students can exchange information or opinions regarding ongoing learning materials to achieve student self-development needs. And this is the instrument indicator of online learning. And the last is instrumentals of learning outcomes, that is variable dependent. The conceptual definition: student learning outcomes are behaviors that arise as a result of the giving and honing of experience that have been received by students in the learning process, which includes aspects of knowledge, attitudes, and skills. And the operational definitions: student learning outcomes are an assessment of student behavior which is a result of giving and honing experience that have been received by students in the learning process, which includes aspects of knowledge consisting of memory, understanding, application, analysis, and evaluation. And this is instrument indicator of learning outcomes. From document Faculty of Ekonomi. In the data analysis stage, the aim is to obtain the results from the data collections by researchers, which will be processed using quantitative methods to better understand the stage of data analysis that will be used in the study. The researchers use instrument tests. In instrument tests, researchers use validity, reliability, classic assumptions, normality, multicollinearity tests, heteroscedasticity tests, and autocorrelation tests. And the research use multiple linear analysis and hypothesis testing. Researchers use simulation tests and partial tests. And yeah, so the presentation of my research proposal entitled "The Influence of Digital Literacy and Media Learning and Online Learning on Students' Learning Outcomes, Faculty of Economics, State University of Jakarta, Semester 113, Case Study of Economic Education Students Class 2018 until 2020. Thank you for your attention. Apologies if there is an error. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.